And welcome. If this is the first time you are joining us, we are an all-inclusive metaphysical church that with lots to offer. For information on classes and other events, please visit our website at www.isdoneonta. I am tongue-tied this morning. And please check out the classes. We have Oracle Circles coming up. We have classes coming up through the summer. Please join us. The reading and homily this morning will be done by Reverend Reverend and co-director Diana Friedell, and it's called Lessons from My Father. Diana?
Good morning. Thank you, Jaya. Today is the 115th anniversary of Father's Day, and this is the day that we're customarily celebrating fathers and those who were like a father to us. In this year, 2025, we will not soon forget this day, as yesterday on Flag Day, there were many millions of our US citizens who took part in over 2,000 rallies called No King's Day, demonstrating against authoritarian rule in the US. Simultaneously, there was an unprecedented military parade in Washington, D.C. What an odd time we are living in. And we intuitively know that we are on the cusp of great change in the US, and we're not sure where all this will end up. But no, we must have faith that step by step, we are moving into a better world. A world that we would like to live in. Yet here we are in a political time of unpredictability, moving through our predictable cycle of nature. Next comes summer, anticipating the joy of warmer weather and the miracles of nature. Summer solstice arrives on Friday, the longest day of the year. So all of those landmark things happening right now, and I'm going to move on to talk about Father's Day, its origins, the expectations on Dad, and touch on stories that you have shared with me about what you've learned from your father. Father's Day was the brainchild of Sonora Smart Dodd, and you could call her the mother of Father's Day. She and her 5 younger brothers were raised by their dad on a farm near Spokane, Washington, after their mother died in childbirth. Sonora Smart Dodd was inspired while attending a Mother's Day sermon in 1909 and thought that fathers deserved the same recognition. So within a year, she and some of the city fathers established the very first Father's Day on June 19th, 1910. And eventually that holiday became law in this country. And now more than 50 countries around the world actually celebrate Father's Day with us. And traditionally in churches today, as in the past 110, 115 years, there will be sermons talking about great expectations for fatherhood and stirring up not only happy memories, but for some of us, memories of the ways our fathers disappointed us. Let's face it, being a dad is not something that many men have prepared for. My husband, Ben, when I asked him, our kids say that he was a good dad. And he says, well, I don't really know what I did. He says he didn't really prepare or read books about being a good parent. We have a quote from a good friend of ours, John Green, and he says, the nature of fatherhood is that you're doing something that you're unqualified to do. And then you become qualified when you do it. End quote. And what great expectations does society have of our fathers? To be in charge of the household, provide for and love your family, make a good living, and encourage your children to be confident, independent, and ethical citizens. At least that's what my father did. Not to brag, but my siblings and I, including my departed sister Sue, who helped to found ISD in Oneonta, feel very lucky to have had the wonderful dad that we did. My dad, Leon, taught me many things, to make a 3-point turn and to parallel park. And with infinite patience, because I failed the driver's test 4 times. Yeah. And not only paid for all 7 of us to go to college, but had us all singing together as a family, which we continue to do to this day when we gather together. But for many of us, our fathers fell short in some way. And now we carry some hurt feelings or residual damage or regret as we recall our relationship with our fathers. And if we are all here to learn and grow, then what have we learned from our fathers that we have incorporated into our lives? Renee Rank found this quote. I believe that what we become depends on what our fathers teach us at odd moments when they are not trying to teach us. We are formed by little scraps of wisdom, and that's from Umberto Eco. Excuse me. So I asked some of our ISD members and friends what you learned from your fathers, even if you took a lesson away from your father's less than exemplary actions. And I'm going to share 3 dad stories with you. This first one was from Sherry Price, who passed away in March, I think, of this year. You all probably remember Sherry Price. She remembers that her father, Cliff Russell, wanted her to know how to drive. She became an expert driver because of the time that he took to make sure she was doing it right. I believe she even drove the school bus.
Yes, she did.
Yeah. And she recalls that he was always teaching her something. He taught her to play softball and taught her how to pitch. He would take her fishing, and the line would always get tangled and the frustration ensued. But Dad would calmly help her get unhooked, and the lesson in fishing that day became a lesson in patience. In family lore, her dad was famous for looking at any broken thing and instantly knowing what was wrong with it and how to fix it. Does some of you have a dad like that also? Yeah, I thought that was a common, I mean, not common, but I've heard that story from others of you. Probably due to growing up on a farm in Pavina. One day, Sherry's dad suddenly had a heart attack and died very suddenly. She was only 18 and she had no plans for her future at that time. And as she was telling me the story, amidst tears, she realized that she would not have been able to attend college if it were not for the Social Security payments that and veterans pay that she received after he passed away. So he was still somehow encouraging her, loving and supporting her all along, and influenced her choice to become a teacher. Maybe he didn't get to see how she turned out, but she is absolutely certain now that he did see it and still sees it from the other side. Thank you, Sherry Price, who's looking on us from the other side now. Lissa Sidoli's dad, Robert E. Lee, Richie, was proudly named after Robert E. Lee because an uncle in the family worked for Robert E. Lee, who was a beloved icon for her family. Lissa's dad, Bobby Lee, taught her many things. He encouraged Lissa for her love for the theater. And she acts with me in Catskill Players and in the community, you probably know her that way, as well as a member here at ISD. He honored her soul. She felt he was connected to her inner art. He took her to the Sound of Music when she was 7. And her dad, Bobby Lee, was an architect, loved poetry and the arts. She and her sisters were taught to be ladies. Politeness was ingrained. They were not allowed to say, shut up. They had to say, be quiet. It was the same in my family. Some of us were probably raised that way. Unfortunately, her father came from a family culture of racism. And at her grandma's house, there was a Confederate flag that took up the whole wall. She and her sisters realized now that they were taught that they were intellectually superior. And they were brought up under the influence of their father's veiled racism. Lissa has been watching with keen interest, and this right as the first time she told me this story, Robert E. Lee statues were being torn down all over the country as part of the current demonstrations against systemic racism, reminding her of what she had to unlearn that her father taught her. What she learned is that we can give ourselves permission to let go of those parts of our family that are hurting us and hurting our oneness without letting go of her love for her father. She's able to let go of the racist culture that she was taught. And I'd like to share Joanne's story, Joanne Warmoth. And this is some of Joanne's words. I watched a near-death experience on YouTube recently where Peter Panagore died of hypothermia while ice climbing and came back to tell about it and wrote a book called Heaven is Real. A fascinating story, but there was one very remarkable thing that happened to him as he went into the light. He stated that in the life review, you experience all the times you hurt people. And there are a lot for all of us, but the divine knows that we can't avoid hurting people on our life path as humans. We just do it. Sometimes it's intentional, and sometimes it's not even intentional. We cause pain and sorrow for others around us. It's just a fact. And even if you lived an exemplary life and you were kind and compassionate, you can't avoid this part of the human experience. And God is very understanding and forgiving as you go through the guilt and regret, as you see and feel the results of your hurtful behavior. And okay, that was I guess that was my part. I watched the near life experience. I was like, it said Joanne's story. So it was like, nope, that was me. This is yeah, no, that was me. Now we come, yeah, now we come to Joanne's story.
There you go.
Yeah. So this brings me to the last story that was shared with me. And when I asked Joanne what she learned from her father, she said, "Oh, that's easy. I learned not to drink." He was an alcoholic, absent father, led his family on emotional ups and downs, and was unreliable and the opposite of supportive. And Joanne had to make a heartrending decision, not at the time, not to help or nurture her dad anymore when he was on his deathbed, because he continued his abusive behavior toward her mom. And although she absolutely had to cut ties to save her mom's sanity, she was left with a sense of guilt about feeling that maybe she abandoned him. And she finally was able to come to peace with her dad through the assistance of a medium, and who connected in with her dad in spirit. On the other side, after her dad's life review, he saw and felt the consequences of his hurtful behavior and made amends with Joanne. And through the medium, apologized for his bad behavior as her father. And she now feels his presence often as she does her healing work, or she perceives his supportive presence in her meditations. She says the lesson she takes from this and often passes on is do your healing with your family members while they are still alive. Well, it's a hard thing to do that healing while they're still alive. So to recap from Sherry, appreciate your fathers and their love and support. Get past your differences stemming from teenage rebellion, which she had a lot of at the time, while you still have your dad in your life, because they may be gone before you know it. From Lissa, we can love the good qualities in our fathers that nurtured us into being who we are, and kindly let go of those qualities that were detrimental to our growth process. And from Joanne, might we have the bravery to face our father's faults head on and heal our relationship while they are still on this earth plane, with us. And if our Father is too lost or broken, know that eventually we will make peace on the soul level, even if it's on another plane. And knowing that our dads are only human, I leave you with a comforting thought from Peter Panagor's death experience, that we all make mistakes. We all hurt people and cause sorrow. Even when we have the best of intentions, it's a part of the human experience. It is unavoidable. And God understands and forgives us. So I leave you with the challenge today to be more understanding and less judgmental of each other's faults and mistakes. If God is willing to forgive when someone doesn't meet our high expectations, then why can't we let go of our judgment and forgive more quickly also? And with a breath of kindness, blow the rest away. Thank you.